Well, hello, boa noite. Carl Monson here of expatsportugal.com with the... Oh, look at that. I can't believe I've done that. It says Good Morning Portugal behind me. In my excitement tonight for the... And I think my colleagues will be laughing at me inside the green room there. Well done, Carl. That's a professional start. It's not actually the Good Morning Portugal show. Look there, that's better. It's the Portugal show. Yes, just rewind that a little bit. It is the Portugal show with me, Carl Monson of expatsportugal.com. And on a Tuesday night, we are joined by Jacqueline Mary Brown. Here she is on the screen now, looking very magnificent, if I might say so. Your hair looks fabulous tonight, Jacqueline. Incredible.
Thank you. I'm getting a telephone call from one of your guests.
Well, I think we've got to say to Debbie to come through on. I'll give her some instructions whilst you're telling us how you are, and we'll bring Owen onto the screen as well. While you're, I
was just going off to answer my phone. I think Debbie was calling my phone. That's what
it's a classy start tonight. It really is. Right, Debbie. Actually, what we can do is we can bring her through live on the phone, actually, if she calls again that way. So I'm plugging the phone in. We'll cover this one way or another. But please, Jacqueline and Owen, tell everybody how you are, and I'll just go behind the scenes and make sure that Debbie's okay, all right?
Okay. Well, I'm absolutely fine. I'm looking forward to this evening. I'm really happy today. And I've had a very funny day. It's been quite funny. So it started off actually by having sort of a very, very long discussion with the electricity board, and which did not go very well. But somehow after it, I just saw the funny side of it all. And I couldn't stop laughing. And then everything started to go really right.
So can I just take you back a bit there? You had a challenging call with the electricity board, as in EDP or somebody like that here in Portugal?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm taking it some sort of dispute, and I take my hat off to you for even being able to have a long conversation with EDP. So was it in Portuguese? I'm guessing no, probably not.
No, it wasn't. But I had a translator helping me. But I had to take over at one point.
Right.
Sort of threatened suicide or the complaints book.
That's quite dramatic.
Okay.
It took me 2.5 hours just to get.
You were on the phone for 2.5 hours to EDP.
Yeah, as well as an hour on Friday.
Okay.
They couldn't do anything because all their systems were down, but they didn't tell me till after an hour into the conversation.
Oh dear! Wow. Okay. And so, just for the purposes of what this show on a Tuesday is all about, which is looking at life from a reframed and more positive point of view, did you suddenly receive the satisfaction you wanted, or did you just decide to be cheerful and change your attitude about the situation you were in, or a bit of both?
Well, I seem to have developed the knack for seeing things like a farce, retrospectively.
Yeah.
And I thought it was just so funny.
Yeah.
And it was all to get the readings, the tariff changed back from a double tariff to the ordinary one.
Yeah.
I think they call it barrio, and it just seemed to be. I'm still laughing actually because I think it's so funny.
Well, that's good. I'm glad. Is it the edge of hysteria as one can get into when dealing with EDP, or are you okay about it?
No, I keep saying it as if I was watching a stage show, with a sort of incredulous faces and like sort of beefed. I don't know what they call it. Ammed up.
Like a puppet show?
No, like a farce, like those.
Yeah.
Comedy errors.
It's so true with EDP, Owen. I mean, they're not a loved company, it has to be said. And I'm not sure there is a massive amount of choice, is there, with these things. But I don't think we're betraying any allegiances or saying anything unfair by saying that EDP are not hugely loved in Portugal. But I'm glad
I'm on solar, so okay.
of your own system.
Yes. Oh, wonderful! Wouldn't that be wonderful?
So there you go. There's a bit of material for tonight's show, because what's happening here, of course, on the Portugal show is that people are watching from all over the world to discover what life is like in Portugal. And we've had a little snapshot there already of dealing with EDP and the alternative, which is to create your own solar rig, which Owen is enjoying. Any questions about that? Put them in the comments, because we are going to welcome on screen a little bit later on Helen, who's in Bangkok. Helen, I've put the link for you to join us because you wanted to talk a little bit more deeply, or maybe widely, about the pandemic politics, and to have a sort of richer and deeper conversation about the pandemic and COVID-19. So come in on that link in I don't know, well, when we finish talking to Debs, who's joined us right now on the screen. Debs,
good
from
evening.
Castella Branco. How are you?
I'm getting there. I'm getting there slowly but surely, Been a crazy sort of year, as you know. You helped me a lot. I had the flood that destroyed my home, and sort of 10 months on now, we're at the very final stage, which is to actually hire my caravan, quite a large depth, I mean, we're going 4 breeze blocks up, which is very good, because the consolation about that is I'll actually be able to see the mountains out of my lounge window, so it's going to be great. But it's a humongous job, and it's actually being done with a lot of pain, putting concrete into massive, great big blocks. There's 84 blocks that had to be filled, and obviously there's different points of the caravan where, when it's wrenched and lifted, that these blocks have to go under. We've been at it now about three days now. I've been going backwards and forwards, getting these massive big breeze blocks. And my friend Dave, I mean, he's been absolutely tremendous. I mean, he's got a sore arm right now because he's been filling these blocks, and he's the one who is in charge of the operation. So hopefully, we're going to raise this caravan on Friday. And obviously the rains have started a little bit earlier this year. I do remember November last year, I went to pick my daughter up from England, and the thing was that it was just pure glorious sunshine. And as I say, this year I do hope to have a happy Christmas, because as you know, 3 days before Christmas, the riverbank broke and everything basically got destroyed. But it's taken probably, I'd say, 10 months to get everything back on track with regards to the decorating, the new flooring and everything in the garden and what have you. I mean, to be frank with you, the garden looks like a bomb site right now with all these grey, huge breeze blocks in it. But as I say, you can't give up. You've got to keep going. You've got to keep trying. And I made the decisive decision to do it this way, the old-fashioned way. I mean, in England, when people live near riverbanks or on floodplains, they're fortunate enough to have a flotation device, which is put up under their caravan, which can take a caravan up to 12 foot with pistons, and it has all these sensors on. But I mean, we're talking about a lot of money to install that particular device. And to be frank with you, I don't actually think I could get it over here to have it done anyway. But at the same time, you use a little bit of common sense. You work out all the angles and where the points are on the caravan where you have to raise them. And, fingers crossed, Carl, it's going to be done.
Well, this is an amazing. I have never heard of a caravan being lifted 12 feet off the ground.
There's a company in England called Marsh Industries that have specially designed this flotation unit. And basically what it is a steel frame that actually has polyester cubes in. And these are like polystyrene cubes that, they float, and with all these sensors. So it's worked. I've seen the video. But I say,
It sounds like something from International Rescue from a TV show. Isn't it? Hold on a minute. Let's say hello to a few people because they're going to be thinking to themselves, hold on a minute. Why is Debs in the bottom left-hand corner of my screen wanting to lift her caravan 12 feet off the ground, ideally? And what's going on with this flooding thing? So I think we're going to have to give them a bit of backstory here before we get into our pandemic discussion, because this is quite a bizarre show. It's turning out already. Yeah. Peter Bleach says, "Bonoit, Carl." Good evening to you, Peter. Lovely to have you back. Helen, as I said, is here listening in Bangkok. Come and join us in a little while. Eric J over in the States. Bonoit, Adoros, looking forward to another interesting show. I think you've got one, Eric. I certainly have. William Ryan, new subscriber, and hopefully a new Portugal resident soon. So, William, the way it works here is we have a conversation with our community members here and friends, and Dona Jacqueline, top right, is our expat elder, the grandmother of our community. And on a Tuesday night, we're looking at life from a more positive, reframed angle, is how I'd like to see it. And tonight, we got into a bit of not deep water, which is what we're going to talk about with Debs, but hot water, I think, about the pandemic. And I said, okay, let's talk about it tomorrow evening, which is now. So we will do that after we found out what's been going on in Castelo Branco with the river bursting its banks. And this is a hazard for people living in certain parts of Portugal with rivers flooding, I guess, isn't it? And this is all over the world. This shouldn't put people off coming to Portugal, presumably.
Not at all. Obviously, I found out the hard way.
Yes.
But, we did have a tremendous amount of rain last year, more so than we normally did. And the river just couldn't cope with it. And the water was running down into the river from the fields and a bit of the hillside. And it was just like a tsunami came round the back of my caravan. And I walked probably 3 foot, and it was up to my waist in probably 2 minutes. So I ran into the caravan and I said to my daughter, pick up whatever you can, electrical off the floor. It's going to hit us. And it came up through the vents in the floor, which started at the back of the caravan. And it came into the lounge. And I would say it was about 1.5 feet in total inside as well. So we had to spend a week at Christmas. A friend of ours gave her house, which was wonderful. And obviously it's taken months and months and months to restore the caravan and get it back. It's even better now. It's beautiful now. But the point to make is this year has been totally taken up with the restoration. And I can safely say now, hopefully on Friday, I'll sleep better at night, because you've got to appreciate it was quite a traumatic event for me.
Of course.
And for my daughter. And whenever it rained, it was like sending alarm bells off in my head. And I thought, I can't go through that again. I just simply can't. So I took the bull by the horns. I spoke to a couple of people and we thought, right, let's try. It's a big challenge, as long as we get the points right on under the caravan, this caravan's going to be raised.
What an amazing! It's almost biblical, isn't it? With the waters and the preparations and the love and kindness, of course, of your neighbours last Christmas. It was beautiful. It was terrible what happened to you, but it was really beautiful how people rallied round and helped you out, which I think is all part of the expat thing, and the Portuguese community all helped out, didn't they, and made things as good as possible for you.
They were great, Carl. They really were. Couldn't thank you enough. Yeah.
So what's been happening is almost like you've pimped your ride in terms of your home there and jacked it up like some sort of custom build, and it's up on blocks now to just get you over and above the waterline. Is that right?
Yeah. Well, we were hazarding a guest really, to where the wall was built at the back of it. So we've actually gone up probably about 2 foot more than we should.
Wow.
Because again, climate change and everything, things can happen again. Yeah. This has actually happened twice in this particular area where the caravan is. So, as I say, I'm just not going to risk it again. And I just really need to do something about it. And like I say, this is the big day. It's the D-Day on Friday.
Yeah, well, good luck with it. Absolutely. Thanks for coming back and telling us what's going on. So, apart from that, life is pretty much back on track for you, and you'll be ready for Christmas and winter.
Yeah, I'm getting there. I'm going to be warm. It's winter. Everything's ticking over lovely. In fact, my daughter Zoe is going to have a baby. She's having a baby in February, so I'm going to be a grandma again. So, work out.
What great news! What great news for you. There's a lot of that in the air. There's a lot of that in the air at the moment. People becoming grandparents. Fantastic.
With what the president said, though. The president said more babies in this country.
Oh, that's right. The president of Portugal, of course, because the population's going down, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, your family are doing their bit. Well done. You might get a Christmas card as well from him this year. Debs, anything else you want to share with us before we move on?
Because I've been so busy with this, and obviously you can appreciate it's taken a long, long time to sort everything out.
Of course.
I wanted, initially when I lost Michael last year, when he died suddenly, I wanted to start off a group where I could help anybody from any country who actually had difficulty going through the process and the protocol and the procedure with anybody when they die here and they weren't familiar with.
Yeah.
And obviously that's still in the pipeline. And after this is done, I think this will be starting sort of in, the next year. And that's something I really want to do because, as I said to you, I had nobody at the time when this happened to me. Mm-hmm. And I wouldn't want anybody to go through what I had to go through. So that's a positive thing. Something's come out of this. I've just had to sort of push it to one side for now to be able to get this sorted. And, I do intend to do it. And obviously, I know it will help a lot of people. And because I've got a dip as well in counselling, I did grief counselling myself. And I feel that I'm qualified to actually help other people who are going through bereavement. So it's not a nice thing to go through. And it's very, very emotional and traumatic. But at the end of the day, you can get through it and you can see light at the end of the tunnel. And really, that's what I want to provide for people and to help them through that.
Thank you for saying so. And thank you for bringing that to the organisation, to the community, because obviously, it's a lot of dreaming and upside and positivity when people want to move country. It's not something you want to think about, but it is a fact of life, isn't it? That you can experience a bereavement. And in your case, and I think, interestingly, Jacqueline here as well, went through a similar experience to you. So perhaps both of you can talk and maybe share your experience together on this, because it will be a real service to the expat community to know what to do in these difficult circumstances.
I really think so. And it is a very complicated process, there's no doubt about it. But at the end of the day, if this can serve a purpose and can help other people and ease the burden as well, I think it's easing the burden from their loss that's important, because you're just in limbo, you're numb from the shock if you lose somebody. And I think it can only benefit people who need it badly.
You need help and support, don't you? And we need to provide a network for that, I think. So do keep in touch with us about that and let us know how we can help. I'm sure Jacqueline will be wanting to talk to you. Is that right, Jacqueline?
Yeah, can I just say something to you about two things, actually, if I may? Am I allowed to?
Of course. Okay.
So, first of all, I'd like to give your caravan a name, which is going to be the Skyscraper Noah's Ark. and the other thing, the other thing is, you have my deepest sympathy. I went through complete hell, and I will join you in helping others in any way I can, or you.
Very much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I would love to do that, because I've thought the same thing, and I thought of doing the same thing and then not really knowing how to do it. So I'm sure Carl will teach us how to do it.
Well, I was lucky because when I was in England, I used to run a national group to help families and children, and I used to be a development officer. So I'm pretty good at putting things together. I think the only thing I might need from you, Carl, is obviously the launch day. I'll have a launch with you or something, and then we
Please
can get
do.
the bird.
Yeah, we'll definitely do that. Look, we've got it's official now. Jacqueline says, I named this caravan the Skyscraper Noah's Ark. That's now scrolling across the bottom of the screen. So they're officially. So we've got two launches, I think. One is the launch of the caravan, where we're going to come and drink some champagne with you, and then of course we will launch the network, the service, whatever it turns out to be, to help people at a time of bereavement. You know, in a new country. Because you've got all sorts of issues to deal with. You've got the protocol rigmarole bureaucracy of the new country, which you might not necessarily know a lot about. Chances are you won't. And of course, the loss that you're going through, and you just need help and support with that. It's a terrible thing to go through alone.
Of course you do. And I think what's important is the fact that you don't have to go when this group starts. You won't have to go through it on your own.
Yeah,
but also the very important thing is the fact that when people come over here, obviously they chase the dream, like I did with Michael.
Yeah.
And things happen, and they can happen suddenly. So therefore, you really need to discuss with your family who are here or your partner, you know, about these things. You have to open up about it and say, well, what happened in the event of something? Because a lot of people don't do it.
Yeah.
And you know, if you've talked about it, you're prepared, aren't you?
Indeed.
So I think that's one of the messages I would like to get across. You know, as hard as it is to talk about it, you must.
Yeah. Yeah. Well said. Well said.
Absolutely.
Oh.
Yeah, I'd just like to say, Debbie, that's amazing what you're doing. 2 years ago, I had to cope on my own, losing my mother. My mum and dad lived in Jamaica, and here on my own, you know, I had to cope myself. And if it weren't through, you know, the few friends that I do have here, it would have been a very, very difficult time for me. So I can understand fully where you're coming from with that, and I commend you for it. You know, if there's anything I can do, just give me a shout, because I managed. You know, I got through it. Anything I can help with at all, you know, I'd love to.
That's fabulous. Thank you.
All right. Do keep in touch, Debs, and good luck with the raising of the caravan.
Yeah.
I think you need some lemon and honey there. You sounds like you've worked too hard today, and you need a whiskey and a lemon and honey.
It's the brick, dust, and cement. You see, it's got on my chest.
Absolutely. Take care of yourself and have yourself a nice hot toddy or something like that.
Yeah, will do.
All right. And some bacalao, which I think is good for that sort of thing. It's good for everything. All right. You take care. We'll speak to you soon.
Bye, love. Bye.
All right. Bye for now.
Feel free to message again. You know, do go.
Yeah, we will be in touch with Debs. Absolutely, she stays in touch with us. Eric's saying, touching story, Debs. All the best in your future endeavours. Yeah, and sorry to the new folks who are tuning in, thinking about, I can't wait to start my new life in Portugal. And it's a bit of a downer, obviously, but like Deb says there, it's something that does need to be talked about. Forewarned, forearmed. You know, it's good to have those conversations as part of your whole plan. It doesn't have to be too morbid and to focus too much on it. But I think it's a worthwhile thing to spend some time on at least. And I think we will be helping Debs with Jacqueline's help here. I think create some sort of network and support for expats should they find themselves in that difficult situation. So we move on then to the subject of tonight, which I'd like to sort of go back to the show notes, if you like, the leave notes of the show, in the company of expat elder Dona Jacqueline, who you see on the screen here, and others. Sorry to just call you others there, Owen, but Helen and Owen and Rachel from Castella Branco said she'd join us. I don't know if she's tuned in or not tonight, but anybody who wants to come on the screen and give their view. We're about respectful exchange of opinions here, okay? To broaden our understanding, not to win the argument, not to have a debate. It's about broadening understanding. So we will attempt to discuss a richer pandemic picture. The question is, are you satisfied with the dominant narrative, which often seems to divide rather than unite us against the virus, which we could see as our common enemy? Or can you see other options and alternatives that could inform and inspire a different, less fractious, less divisive, less polar course of action? Share your view tonight in a respectful environment that's here, where we'll attempt to build a consensus beyond contradiction and confusion. I think that's quite a good place to start. And I want to say as well before, I don't want to dominate this conversation at all, but I do feel it right for me to say these are my views and my views only. I don't speak on behalf of any organisation. This is a moment in this particular show tonight where we thought, okay, let's talk about this. I'm sharing my own views. Saying that, one view that I saw on Facebook a day ago was from Wendy Howard, who I have the utmost respect for, a remarkable woman who is an expat, has created an incredible homestead in central Portugal. And this is what she said yesterday, which really summarizes for me, and it might be the start of a discussion for us. Okay, rant time, she says. And let me get one thing totally clear from the start. I am not saying the virus doesn't exist and isn't a nasty one, okay? And I'm sure that's pretty much the consensus here. We've had viruses exactly like this here, at least, for the last 5 years now. Several friends and direct personal acquaintances have had something with pretty much identical symptoms to those reported for COVID-19, and so have I, she says. Let me repeat, for the last 5 years. These viruses knock you right out, feel like the worst illness you've ever had, land people in hospital with secondary pneumonia, and take months to recover from. As far as I can see, she continues, and she's been saying this for a long time now, COVID-19 is part of a trend of worsening severity in the annual winter viruses that's been evident for some time. It's a wholly unsurprising one, given what we're doing to the biosphere, she says. Based on observations and experience, I'm saying that the only truly exceptional thing about COVID-19 is the massive spotlight that's been thrown onto it, the fear that's been whipped up and continues to be whipped up surrounding it, and the draconian measures introduced in response to it. What I'm questioning here is the whole pantomime of responses. They are inconsistent, frequently completely illogical, based on highly questionable data, fly in the face of tired and tested responses to infectious illness, and now appear to be causing more harm than the disease itself, which has on present estimates a 0.2% death rate, overwhelmingly against the elderly and already ill. In other words, the population most at risk every winter. The real pandemic is fear, and in the name of it, we are turning into little Nazis. That's not a word I'm happy with in that, but that's what she says. The general gist of this is right. I think that's a bit strong personally, but she says we're willingly handing over our hard-won freedoms to people who have shown themselves quite blatantly to be utterly corrupt and incompetent. Sensible? I think not. And why am I having a rant about this now? She says because the restrictions are becoming ever more draconian and less based on real facts and good science. COVID-19 will soon morph into COVID-20, then COVID-21. How much more of this nonsense are we going to put up with? There needs to be a proper, well-reasoned, nuanced debate about our collective response to these worsening winter viruses without this fear-based, headless thickening, creeping fascism and rampant suppression of the full diversity of knowledge, wisdom and experience and opinion there is out there on this. This is a complex, multifactorial situation, as any living system is, and black and white simplistic responses are quite simply inappropriate and incoherent, especially on a global scale. None of us get out of this alive anyway. Birth and death are the only two events in our lives we can all be said to have in common. In between, we are here to live the full and glorious diversity of this brilliant and precious gift of life, not cower in terror of losing it. That, for me, sums up pretty well how I feel about it. Over to you, Jacqueline and Owen, now to say a little bit more. Would you like to respond to that, or say what you have to say, Jacqueline, to enrich this debate about the pandemic and COVID-19?
She has my every sympathy. Again, I think the people in government are as frightened, or if not so more frightened than sometimes we are, and of course they're going to get blamed for everything. But I don't like the draconian methods that are happening. I don't know that they do any good. I do find sometimes that it seems absolutely ridiculous. You know, some of the measures just don't make sense. And I'd also like to point out that I'm in the so-called vulnerable age group, and I have preconditions in as much I've only got partial lung functioning. And I do get a bit scared sometimes of dying of suffocation, not of dying. I'm not frightened of dying one little bit, In fact, I probably look forward to it quite a lot, knowing my faith and all the rest of it, which some people that are watching may know and may not, but I don't, the method of dying, I don't think is going to happen to me, but it does come into my mind sometimes because of all the things you see. So I deliberately do not watch anything to do with COVID deaths or, you know, overcrowding or any of those things. But I've also had, in the first few years I was here, I had influenza 3 times and pneumonia 4. And I'm still here. And I'm still happy and living and loving life. So, you know, that didn't knock me out. And I really resent the fact that we can't do things that normally encourage one another, you know, which is we're not being able to do any physical contact really. And I don't know about you, I mean, you live on your own, did you say? And I'm on my own, and you know, that's always been an important part of my life. And the thing about people almost fearing each other, you know, somebody introduced me to their parents at the doorway yesterday, you know, and they were all masked up, but they wouldn't step over the threshold because they were frightened they were going to give me something, which is very kind of them, but you know, it's just, it's terrible to live in fear of everybody, and I'm really, really concerned about our children, because what sort of a life are they thinking they're growing up into, where they have to be afraid of people? So I think there are things we can do, as I've said quite often. I think there's lots of things we can do to stay positive, and things that we can do that make us happy. Yes. We do have to live life to the full. And we also, I can't remember who said it. Am I taking up too much time?
No, not at all. No, say what you have to say. Absolutely.
Okay, so I don't know who said this, but you know, if there is if it is moving over into being really detrimental to people's health, even more than the so-called COVID virus, both mentally and apparently the suicide rate has absolutely rocketed.
Yeah.
Especially amongst young people. So I think then we are going to have to stand up and fight a little bit, because I think the saying was when the only way evil can continue is because good people never speak out against it.
Okay.
And we have seen that happen in our world before, but we've also recovered from far worse than this.
So do I take it from that you do think something evil is going on?
I do.
Okay.
I don't think it's necessarily meant for evil.
Right.
Although it could be.
Okay.
But
right.
Even if it's not meant for evil, if the cure is worse than the avoidance is worse than the event, then maybe we should protest a little.
Okay, and I think people are doing that, aren't they, to some degree? Before we go into more of that and some of the comments we're getting, Owen, what's your view on this?
Well, it's just very confusing and also difficult at the same time. Obviously, being in Portugal and having family in different countries, and particularly in the UK, and seeing, like we was talking about, the draconian measures that people are being put through. You know, I think that for me, right at the very beginning of all this, is that it's like with anything, you know, tell us what we can do for ourselves. You know, I think one of the first reports I heard when we went into lockdown here in Portugal is that one of the reports was that to get out into the countryside and walk. And I heard that, and that was such a relief to hear that you can still do the things that you would do, go out into the fresh air and exercise, and to have your time limited. I don't even know, what the state of affairs is in the UK at the moment, but to say that you can only go out for a certain amount of time, you need the fresh air. We're not being told that the right sort of foods to eat or the right sort of supplements, anything like that. And as it was said earlier on in the article that you were saying about fear, and that, unfortunately, is probably causing more deaths than the virus itself, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, thank you for that. I'm sure you'll have more to say as this unfolds. Douglas says, I'm feeling a bit depressed listening to tonight. That's understandable, Doug. I'm sure you can help us keep it light. I'm having a mince pie. Are they in the shops already? I can't believe it. I think he's in Wales. Yeah, you like a spring lamb. You're about to be released, aren't you, after lockdown in Wales? Hope you have mince pies in Portugal. Pastéis de Santa. Very good. Very good. The pastéis de Santa. I've not seen a mince pie here. I'm glad to have escaped mince pies, to be honest with you. I think there are some much better confections here. The Bola de Rey, the King's Cake, I think is the Christmas one here, which is very nice. Especially if you're partial to a bit of glacé cherry in both green and red, which often adorns the top of it, which is something you don't see too often these days.
Is it kind of a circular thing, Carl?
Yeah, that's right. So, yeah,
almost like a bread.
Yes.
Yeah, that's right. It's like a loaf. Yeah, the Bola de Rey. He's going to get one. He's always going to go and make one now. He's a bit handy in the kitchen. So while he's doing that, let's have a look at some comments that are coming in. Helen, call us on WhatsApp. I'll put that number, and anyone else who wants to do that you can call in via WhatsApp. There he is. He's got one. He's got the red and the green glacé on the top. Are you going to open it up? There you go, everybody. Those looking for a little bit of Portuguese intel, that's what we're tucking into this time of year. Nicely shrink wrapped. That looks like
it from the baker.
Okay, it looks like it needs releasing from its social distance there.
It's distance away from it now. There's too much sweet things.
So let's have a look. What's happening here? Eric, thank you. Yes, we've done that one. Totally in agreement about the collective world reaction, says William Ryan. Do say more, please. We're interested in what I was getting to in that, or what Wendy was saying about having a nuanced, get into the long grass, get into the grey areas. Too much black and white, I think, at the moment, and a lot, like Owen's saying there, on what you can't do, and not too much on what you can do and what you might do. And maybe we shouldn't we expect too much from governments anyway. A shocking post, says Sean G. I'd like to know why you think that, Sean. And I don't think it's a factual post to start any debate. Okay, fair enough. I'm not having a debate, and by that I mean it's not like I'm refusing to talk to you. I don't mean I'm not having a debate from that point of view. What I mean is here, Sean, I'm not trying to win anything. I shared that in good faith as something that sums up my feelings, views about this. And absolutely, if you don't think that's factual, feel free to say how, and please add to the conversation here as best you can. So Helen hopefully will call from Bangkok on WhatsApp and join us. Beyond one Ken, hello one and all. Sorry I'm late. Don't worry about that, Ken. It was great to have your company this morning for the first time on the show. And yeah, Doug is here. Good evening, all. It's your old pal, Doug, with his mince pie dad jokes there, which are very good. I have to say, Doug. And I'm sure, Doug, I know you are maybe a little bit depressed about the subject matter, and that's understandable. But I'm sure you've got a view about this as well that you will be sharing with us at some point. Good news about the vaccines. Remember, Pfizer's is one of many that will be coming out. Let's be positive. Okay, who here is up for being in the front line of trying that one?
As long as Mr. Gates is in front of me and every other politician, I'm
Here we go. He's mentioned the G word, Gates. That's out the bag now into the debate. So you want to see Bill Gates at the front of the queue?
And every other politician that's saying that everybody should take them, or it's compulsory or mandatory. Let's see them do it first.
Yep.
And let's see the reaction.
Yep.
And they could be the clinical trials. Let's see those. If they're confident about it, let them do it. That's all I'm saying.
It's not an unreasonable request. I think I'm going to wait. I personally don't feel like one of those people who'll be rushing to the front of the queue. Bolo means tummy in Welsh. That's quite a nice coincidence and quite random, but that's how we roll here. I'm coming to yours, Owen lad. To have that
It's in the cake. It's the cake.
Owen's got cake. Owen's got cake. And I think it keeps as well, especially if it's wrapped up like that in its own confectionery condom that it seems to have there, if I may put it like that. And yeah, Helen's still trying to join us. So what else can we say about this? Before we go into that, Ken's saying it's sad that more people. Oh, here we go. We've got Helen joining us now. It's sad that more people put more value on clothes, I guess, than they do on other people's health. The morning the Welsh lockdown opened up, the high streets were full around the block. Yeah, it's a funny thing that. I guess it's part of the conditioning of people, isn't it, Ken? We'll come to you in just a moment, Helen. As I listened to your feelings, I was reminded of the Trump supporting states in the US where COVID cases are spiking because of similar attitudes while cracking macadamia nuts in Hawaii, says Ginny. I don't think you're very happy with what's been said so far, but please tell us why. That's the point of the discussion, is to say why. That sounds just a little bit like you're making us wrong, and I don't quite know what you mean. I get that you don't like what I've said. I've shared my personal view. I would like to know why you don't think it's appropriate or useful, rather than sort of stigmatizing me in among a group of people you don't like, because I don't know how helpful and useful that is. Although, fair play, I am asking people to share their views, so I kind of asked for that as well, Ginny. But do say more. Helen, we have you on WhatsApp. How are you?
Good evening. It's good morning where I am.
You are in Thailand, right?
Yes, it's about 5:43 here.
5:43 in the morning.
Yes,
Oh,
I got up at 4 just to chat to you.
Bless you. In that case, say what you have to say.
Okay, I've heard everybody's comments and they're all valid. And Jacqueline touched on it very clearly. It's about fear. And that is the biggest virus, really. And it's all about our mind and how we approach things with our mindset. I know there's different numbers and figures going on in different countries, and some are more affected than others. And what the scientists are saying is, when you look at the research, you have to take into effect different comorbidities of different regions, cultures, and places, and stress levels. So when I've spoken to my scientist friends, they've all said to me, a virus doesn't have waves. And what they mean by that is it comes and it goes. So it's the same as the Stanford scientist said. There was already 30% herd immunity already in the communities. Because when you're exposed to a virus, your body immediately builds an antibody immediately. Now, those that are more susceptible, like Jacqueline mentioned, any kind of precondition, or auto-suppressive state, you are more vulnerable, definitely. But you're more vulnerable to catching the yearly flu. You're more vulnerable to, when you're around young people, if they've had any kind of diseases or vaccinations, you're more vulnerable to pick up viruses. So having said that, I think the approach should always be to protect the vulnerable, the elderly, and anybody that's in any stress level. And Deb spoke about her bereavement, and grief is a very debilitating state to be in, because it does suppress your immune system. So these are things to bear in mind. America's been under a lot of stress. England's been under a lot of stress. The UK. So all these countries are having added stresses. They have seasonal issues. They have a lot of what we call environmental issues suppressing them as well. Dampness, the weather. There is the talk of 5G having an effect, EMFs, and it has proven to deconstruct or damage cells, cellular. So we're looking at things from a cellular level, and I think that's where we need to pay attention. What can we do for ourselves from a cellular level? The first thing is the mindset is not to panic, to have positive thoughts, because that will change your chemistry in your own body. It will relieve the cortisol and the stress levels in your body. That's the first thing. And then to have a midway approach. In other words, we look at both sides of things, but we need to have a panel of people that are not just scientists, doctors, but also advocates for people's rights. Because also what Jacqueline touched upon is these measures are draconian. And there are suicides and there are high levels of anxiety. When I mentioned previously on one of the chats, I was doing a thesis on anxiety and neurosis. And it's funny that I was doing this during COVID, because the initial statistics were 13%, and we really are looking at 40% right now. So this is a real factual thing going on. There are suicides in the young people. Young people need to be with young people. Elderly need to be around their people. We need human interaction. And that's why what you're doing here is fantastic, because community is everything. And I believe if our communities looked after ourselves, as far as we do have respect for each other, if there is someone who's feeling vulnerable and they're absolutely petrified, yes, then we'll wear a mask. But when we're not around them, we need to get as much oxygen in our body. We need to be in the sunshine 20 minutes a day for our hormones in our body to make D3. If you take a vitamin D, it's not enough. It's got to be activated by the sunlight. So these are things. And the bottom line of this is, having spoken to a couple of my scientist friends and people who are privy to certain things, yes, there is money involved here, huge money. And you can't ignore the fact that you have to have a look at these different pharmaceutical companies. What we have to bear in mind are that particular company that's working with Oxford, they didn't do any animal modeling. Therefore, they are not liable for any, how can we say, vaccine injury lawsuits, because they didn't do the animal models. So they know what they are doing. And you need to bear this in mind. You have to check every single thing. So what I'm saying is, you can't release a vaccine when it hasn't been tested. And so doctors and scientists are saying, slow down on this. The other thing is, you have to look back at the virus. And this is why scientists will tell you this. Viruses come and they go. They don't stay in your system. So there is no vaccine for virus. That's why we don't have a vaccine for HIV. We don't have vaccine for flu. That's why every year you have vaccines that come out. But remember, they cannot cope with the whole spectrum of viruses. And these viruses mutate. And with the fact that we already have 30% herd mentality, the virus wave is gone. What you're dealing with now is stress levels, comorbidities, people whose health has not been taken care of, because these hospitals have been furloughed and they've been waiting for this avalanche of so-called COVID cases. Also, they were told to record all deaths as COVID cases, when in fact they had comorbidities. So when we go back to the fact that we all are aging, and we do have regenerative cellular stuff going on, we all have chemicals in our body. We have to go back to what we can do for ourselves. And this is get oxygen, get sunlight. You need to campaign people in your communities to be your voice. But you need to get people who are not biased. There's no what we called convergent optimism. Do we use that word?
Yes.
Yeah. So this is a real problem. And it's also been piggybacked by certain governments to leverage other agendas. For instance, we don't have cases here. We've only got 80 deaths, I think, and 2,000 cases. Now, there's a lot of speculations. Why don't we have this here? And everyone will say, oh, the minute it was announced in December when Wuhan had this outbreak, everybody wore masks and there was a lockdown. Actually, our lockdown was in March. But we have hot weather. We have a lot of humidity. These make it difficult for viruses to thrive. And we probably have a damn good immunity here, because we have other viruses and things that we have built immunity to. So these are things we have to look at in mind. And if we look at the Italian case, there was a lot of interesting cases. When they looked at them, they were mostly elderly. They already had respiratory issues. There was 5G that was around that area. There were a lot of Chinese workers working in those particular factories where the Italian companies had sold. So there was a lot of migration and things going on. There were 8 blood types. So they do know the sequencing. What my scientist friends have told me, it is manufactured. It's got inserts of SARS, COVID, SARS, HIV, and all sorts of other types of cocktails of things. So, but it goes back to not having fear around this. It goes back to the fact that we are building immunity. And that's all I can say, is that the power stays in the people, the power stays in the community. If you look after yourself, if you question everything, if you say we have the right to have sunshine, the two things that they're doing, putting masks on and locking people up, are the worst things. And keeping people isolated from each other. We all know when you have love and support and hugs around, immediately your hormones will increase. You have oxytocin. Even if you pet a dog or a cat, you get oxytocin release, which is that good feeling. So we need to fight this together as a community, and we need to have a strong mindset. Prayer helps, meditation helps, all those techniques that help you have a more positive outlook and lift your spirit is crucial. And I like the fact that Debbie said she wanted to help people with bereavement. Absolutely. The more people that have experience in different things, they can lend and share their support and their knowledge to others. So I think that's fantastic what you're doing.
Well,
I just wanted to say that.
Thank you very much. And it's great. I'm just sending a message to Owen, who's a bit concerned about the noise his computer was making. Oh, he's gone now, and he may call. But Helen, thank you so much for calling from Thailand. And that is interesting. With the figures you mentioned there, 80 deaths and 2,000 cases. Yeah, in Thailand. And because people in Europe often talk about, there are set pieces, aren't there, for countries and comparisons, and Sweden is the one that's often talked about. But I've never heard about Thailand, and that sounds like a pretty remarkable set of numbers there, for which you could not. I mean, this is the problem, isn't it? When you start talking about numbers, it dehumanizes things. But in terms of a seasonal flu, that isn't a massive number, is it?
No, it's very low. And I think that's the other thing you mentioned, Carl, the PCR testing. They've already said there's a margin of error of 30%. So we don't do testing here either. So that's why you don't get all those figures that you're seeing in the UK and America and Wales. There is no testing here. What they do is they did a lockdown and they quarantine. So basically our borders are closed. But if people come in through some special visa type, they are quarantined for 14 days and they go through a test before they arrive, 72 hours before, and then there's 2 COVID tests here. But what I'm saying is there are different laboratories that carry out these tests. What I have to say to you is think of when they're collecting this data, when you saw people in these tents and they had these people in the drive-bys, there's a huge margin of error. There's huge margin of contamination of any bacteria and virus in that situation. If you had to produce those results in court, forensic evidence would knock it out. So, you have to look down the rabbit holes and you have to look at what makes sense, what ties up and what doesn't.
Yes.
So my heart is definitely with the UK. I think they're the hardest hit, really. But they were more susceptible. And it's draconian what's going on there. And the worst thing is the economic effects, because here businesses are carrying on. People need to trade. Another thing, coconut, for instance. Coconuts, I mean, if you look at the diet of the people here, it's very healthy. Coconuts are antiviral, antibacterial, and they were used in an experiment against SARS, and it was effective. So we have to look at, again, the comorbidities of the people. We have to look at their lifestyles. Are they moving? What are they consuming? And as I say, we have heat here. We have a lot of heat and high temperatures. So these are things to consider. And Europe is more affected, definitely, in the UK. So my heart is with them, and I think they should fight this on every level. And there are some amazing people out there that are giving the truth, and I just hope they get a platform to share their voices and their truth.
Helen, thank you so much. And I would agree with what Eric's saying there. Very well stated. I do. There was something you said about about creating a board, if you like, or a broader forum for discussion. I think that's really important. I am averse to fighting things on a number of levels, because I think what you fight kind of grows, and again, it's fighting, I think, and being in that state is not resourceful long term, and I think is a challenge to your immune system. I think we need to broaden the debate. I really like what you said about people being in there who complement what's being said. So not everyone, that's not possible, but it could be much bigger than it is now, right? It could be a lot broader. And this is what happens when we leave so much of our lives, I think, to government control. This is, of course, what governments will do. Governments deal in numbers. If you have an individual and you have a government, who's going to come off better in that relationship. It's always going to be the government, isn't it? Because of the way governments work, the way they have to work, because of the power that's been invested in them. And I agree with you completely. We need a broader forum of discussion, advocacy. We need people to be in there with differing views so that the views can be discussed. Differing views seem to be marginalized from the get-go, don't they? They're not part of the debate. They're chucked out early on. Jacqueline, what did you hear in there that you might want to respond to?
I really appreciate somebody putting that so succinctly, and I think the problem is with a lot of people generally, including me, is that
hold on, let me just I just unplugged. It's feeding back on Helen's phone. I'll just cut the line for a moment, Helen, and we can talk to you a bit more later on, but that's causing us a problem. Please carry on, Jacqueline.
Generally, the media now, the sort of national media and so on and so forth, were they all seem to speculate. They don't necessarily come up with news. And it's always been a case that bad news sells. Bad news sells newspapers, or scandal, or, all of those things, it sells. So there's an aspect of money in this. But I've got a few things to add to that, because I've actually gone to various sources that are speaking out. You have to dig deep to find them. I found a doctor who is probably going to give up doctoring to tell the world what he's been persuaded to do by the medical board, which is to put everything down as a COVID death, whether or not they only have to prove that they've been in contact with somebody. Now so people dying of heart attack or other forms of flu or so on and so forth, he's been instructed by the medical board to do that. There are lots and lots of concerns about the vaccine that's coming out, and I was listening to a program earlier on this evening where people were discussing that. But I think, if anything, I totally agree. We have to have a positive mindset. But you can't just switch fear off. You have to put something there in its place. It's like saying, well, don't. The Bible says don't fear, but if you're going to fear, you're going to fear.
Yes.
But it also says be renewed by the transforming of mind. And so it takes a lot of positive, in fact, probably a lot more positive input to overcome fear. And so we need to work at that, and we need people to be able to get support. It's so easy to have programs like this where you can actually talk to people and support them and take them through personally, perhaps with some of the things that are going on. It's very difficult to give health advice or to tell people to take things. And it was really nice to hear, that get out in the sun and fresh air, because oxygen does kill everything. Oxygen will kill things. And I know lots of things that I do for myself, but getting into dangerous ground if you actually start recommending that to people.
Sure.
Because
yeah.
we're all different, so that's quite a hard thing to do. But I also want to find out, and anybody can do this, you can find out the figures of people that have died and what they've died of. So just statistics, I'm not talking about opinions of what they've died of, but the number of people that have died. And it is really interesting that the sort of number of deaths of cancer patients, heart patients, various other things have gone down. rapidly gone down.
Hmm.
So there's something wrong in there. And the other thing is that going back as far, I don't know if I've mentioned this on the show before, but going back as far as 2019, no, 19, it's over 10 years ago, sorry. I'm trying to think what date it was. Somebody started to patent everything to do with covoids, because there are lots of different types. And if it's a natural substance, that's an illegal thing to do. If it's a manufactured substance, I don't know what the position is there, but they shouldn't be able to patent it. And every vaccine that's come out. And so your guest on the telephone, I'm sorry, I just forgot.
Helen in Thailand.
Helen did mention the money and the amounts of money. I mean, I think we would be really horrified if we really knew the amount of money that had been poured into that, and it would have been perhaps better used to give people the support, even if they were being kept under lock and key, and various other things, and to research, less troublesome methods. And everybody, all the medical people that are talking about vaccines are saying there have not been enough tests done, and so on and so forth, and the trials are not enough. And we could be in a worse state.
Mm.
And so all I would do is try to encourage people to, stay away as much from looking at all the death statistics and, try to do things that cause life, give you satisfaction in doing. You can't just sit in fear. And fear is a very peculiar thing. Apart from the fact it can make you unhealthy, you can actually imagine yourself into something. If the placebo effect is proven with medicine, I reckon you can also prove the placebo effect of the opposite effect of fear and believing that you've got a problem. And I've seen that in a lot of people.
That's quite a curveball to bring in as we would normally conclude. I think, are you guys happy to just carry on a little bit longer?
I'm happy to carry on.
Yeah, sure.
Well, welcome back, Owen. Because we do have a Bill Gates question for you. Let's go to a few of the comments that have come in, and try and catch up from where we left off. Okay, yes, Ginny's comment. I misunderstood. I think it's Ginny that's eating the macadamia nuts. I thought it was a caricature she was creating of Trump fans. Listening while cracking macadamia nuts. I read that as wise cracking. So forgive me, Ginny, for misunderstanding that. I think you're enjoying a few macadamia nuts in Hawaii. That sounds lovely. Safiro is here. Bon night from Safiro tonight. Good evening to you. I'm interested to understand why Owen is talking about Bill Gates. We can come back to that. Excuse me. Fear is the one prison. Ken has joined us in two formats tonight. Fear is the one prison that we walk into without knowing it. Before you know it, it has you in its grasp. But well said, I think, Ken there. William Ryan, when I speak to my friends worldwide, either in the US, South America or Europe, there is a broad distrust of the manipulation of the numbers of cases. Okay. One of the biggest casualties of the pandemic will be trust in governmental and health authorities. I'm not sure that was at an all-time high before we went into this, but I take your point. It may well get worse. Ken saying, yeah, Big Pharma, and presumably has his suspicions. Do you, Ken, about Big Pharma and following the money, etc.? Who's now and Ken's joining us on Facebook now. Eric J, I think, was appreciative of the way Helen articulated things. Fiji has been amazing. I think they've only had 2 cases since I looked, but they locked down quite hard. Is it San Marino was the worst affected place, and you never hear of that, interestingly. Douglas Hughes, I'm going to have to swap mince pies for Bounty bars. It sounds like he's got all his Christmas confectionery out already. He's got like a big box of celebrations there as well with the Bounty bars. There's a good joke about Bounty bars, but now's not the time. Ginny says, I was just trying to let you know how I felt hearing all your comments. You seem so defensive, and I must say I will probably not be joining in discussions again anytime soon. Well, that's a shame, Ginny. The invitation is there, and I'm sorry if you heard me as being defensive. I'm really trying not to be. I'm attempting to. I mean, I suppose I'm in an unusual position when, in a way, I'm a host, but also I've got some interest in this, which, you know, I think all hosts have an interest in what they're talking about, and I think this is a big deal. So I am speaking about it, and I did own that at the beginning. But I'm sorry if I've kind of chased you off in any way from contributing. That's a shame. I've seen cases diminish where people cooperated with advice from doctors and scientists, and increase in areas where people resisted. We're not allowed anywhere because of the behaviour of many in our country, adds Ginny. Ken, talking of contamination in the UK, some of the test centres, when they first opened, they accidentally used the already used testing kits somehow. Oops. UK measures aren't enough. We still have got schools and universities open, and the Eat Out to Help Out scheme has spread the virus through the communities here. That was a bit of an own goal, Peter, wasn't it? That system, where I guess, you know, it was assumed that it was either the economy or health, and again, that's an unfortunate either or situation. Again, I think a more nuanced debate could see that differently. It doesn't have to be caricatured as either the economy or the health. You have a massive advantage in Portugal, continues Peter, in terms of Southeast having nearly 4 times the population of the UK. I'm not sure I understand that. We have a tiny percentage of the UK population in total. I'm not sure exactly what you mean there, Peter. You might want to add. Yes, a better word is advocacy rather than fighting, meaning we have to have a voice. Agreed, Helen. Yeah, I was just being a bit picky there, and purely, I'm not saying anyone else shouldn't fight. People have got to do what they've got to do. I'm not, and like Jacqueline was saying there, I am not telling other people what to do here. I'm sharing my view in the interest of broadening the debate. So, really, we're not in the business of giving advice here. We need to adapt an Inspector Clouseau approach from Eugene in Ireland. Good evening to you, sir. Approach to an attack from COVID. Yeah, Clouseau might stand a better chance at the moment. Fear leads to the dark side. Absolutely, Ken. Sorry, got to go, says William Ryan. It's interesting until now. See you tomorrow. We'll see you in the morning then, William. Ken. Fear such as people banging on about 5G and Bill Gates, completely agree. I think, Sean, I think we can take from that, not happy about people making a connection with Bill, with 5G being having an effect in this, or being anything to do with it, and people and their feelings about Bill Gates with this. Owen may or may not want to respond to that in just a moment. I have vets. I think this is something to do with vaccinations dating back to 2015. Yeah, COVID is an ongoing mutation, isn't it? It's just that it's had an amazing PR job. Let's put it like that since March this year. It's nothing new, is it? It's like Wendy was saying. It's just the way it's been reported has changed it completely. I think if we'd tested and reported the flu of 2018, we might have a very similar picture, but we didn't. Or it was reported, but not as widely. If you read about Spanish flu, says Doug, its trajectory is closely mirrored by COVID-19. The initial outbreak was weak compared with the latter phase of the outbreak. Helen, be careful of how much time you spend watching mainstream media, because those figures are not the same statistics that scientists, doctors, and advocates are using. And yeah, Jacqueline was saying they do tend to be sensational, but it's like, you know, government's got to govern, news media's got to do the news. They will do what they do best, which isn't necessarily the best thing for us. They do what they do often for their own agendas, as we all do, of course. Death numbers are massively overstated. If you test positive within 28 days in the UK, your cause of death is now COVID, which isn't strictly true, as most have underlying health issues. Thank you for that, Sean. Yes, Sean, PCR tests have too many false positives, but somebody's doing well out of that. I am concerned about the mental health of everyone during this time. And that's where I think, can really do something, right? Where we can come together and we can do something about that. I really believe that. Sorry, I meant the Southeast has 4 times the population of Portugal. Yeah, absolutely. I thought that's what you meant, Peter. Sean G, Helen completely, the tests aren't ideal. Eric J, sadly, we have been forced to take sides. Yes, this is the problem, isn't it? And I feel that occurring here tonight. It's so difficult to stay out of that. Few are willing to budge from their own views. So, Owen, did you want to? I know we chucked Bill Gates into the conversation earlier on. Did you want to say any more about that?
Yeah, I mean, it's just a point, really. I mean, no matter where you go in the world, and if we're gonna talk about the buzzword at the moment, democracy at the moment, is that you would elect somebody into Parliament that's going to represent you and provide for you in your country. Now, until the day that Mr. Bill Gates becomes one of those people that is elected to stand and act for the people, you know, he doesn't. He's not a politician. He's not. You know, for me, he's a businessman, a philanthropist that's decided to spend his money into the things that he does. You know, and is it for the greater good? I don't know. I'd question that because of all the deaths that have occurred, all the invalidity that's occurred in tests that is used all over. You know, in most parts of the world. So to put my trust in somebody that has caused so much damage when he says he's doing good, I don't know. He's not an elected official. I ignore him.
Fair play, fair play. And I would put also in the same way that I think with governments do what governments do, and we elect them and we let them. I think the news media do what the news media does. They are searching for the ultimate bad news story, aren't they? And they got a lot of that in this. You know, the ultimate news media story is the end of the world, isn't it? Let's face it. They're not in the business of good news. They're in the business of disaster. And this has been great for news media business. And I think the same thing is true of billionaire philanthropists. They will do what they want to do as well. When you've got all your money needs met and taken care of, and you've grown up in a billionaire background, where do you put your attention? You will put your attention into doing good in the world, whatever that means. And we all know from our own experience, don't we, that the road to hell is paved with good intentions, and no good deed goes unpunished. And billionaire philanthropists are no exception to that. And I imagine he does think he's doing something good. But I also accept completely what you're saying, Owen, which is no thanks. It's like, not, you know, it's you are not my guy. So stay out of my life, which I think he should be able to hear as well.
If that would be the case, I walk into any surgery tomorrow and perform any sort of open heart surgery, brain operation, anything. If that's the case, if Bill Gates can do what he can do, I'll go along and do that tomorrow. Sorry.
Well, it's funny that because I only have my caricature view of Bill Gates, and I think I trust you more and this is what we're talking about. We're talking about community, aren't we? We're talking about knowing people, and I think this is part of the problem here. Is a lot of the people who make decisions about our lives at the moment don't know us. So if I've got to choose between Bill Gates and Owen at the moment, I'm going to choose my mate Owen because I know him and I can talk to him, and there's accountability and there's vulnerability and there's authenticity. There are human things going on between me and Owen, which I don't have between me and the news media, between me and Bill Gates, between me and government at the moment, because it's so centralized, it's so distant. And I can understand if I was in their position, I would probably do similar things because I would be looking at numbers and I would not be looking at people necessarily because of the nature of government as we have it at the moment. I've seen Bill Gates' big speech on his mosquitoes. Sounds like he's watched too much Jurassic Park, says Ken. And we know how that ended. Loving the colours in Owen's pad. Very cool. I think Douglas really is coming to your place to admire the decor and eat cake with you at some point, Owen. Stand by for a visitor. Helen, social engineering is what's really important to ponder on and take back one's mind to discern. Are you talking about the kind of great reset agendas there, Helen? Because again, if we allow people to organize themselves, you know, the elite, as I don't think they should be called, but the extremely rich and the extremely mobile of our world, of course, they will do what they're doing at the moment as well. It's only kind of normal that people with lots of money and a sense that they run the world will then just try and run the world in a way that suits them and benefits them. If that's the social engineering you're referring to, we need to get our own community with like-minded people who respect each other and knowing baking pizzas and cakes and doing open heart surgery in between. but not with the same.
Absolutely. Who's first?
Not with,
Not with the same
with-
knife.
not with the same knife. We need that. We need some sunlight and oxygen on that knife. Everyone should watch The Social Dilemma. Is that the latest kind of shock horror thing, Sean, about social media and how again, social media companies, I think, will do what they can with the power they've got. It's not really that surprising that Dominic Cummings, Steve Bannon, Cambridge Analytica did what they did with the tools they discovered. These things happen, don't they, for human beings? And I think it's we should challenge them, absolutely. But it's just this problem of like us accepting how strangers have so much say in our lives. It's so bizarre, isn't it? And we accept that. Helen agreeing with, is that the one? Is The Social Dilemma that last and latest sort of shock horror thing? In my opinion, it's not really shock horror. It's just what happens, right? If you leave social media and Silicon Valley to it, that's what we end up with. I can see it on that level, Sean, for sure. And thank you for sticking around and putting your 2 pence in, Sean, tonight, for sure. Jacqueline, Owen, anything else you want? I have been dominating the conversation, I think, because I've got 2 roles, host and opinion. Please balance me up a bit, Jacqueline and Owen.
Well, I'd like to say something more. Carry on, Owen.
Go ahead.
Please go.
No, you go ahead, Jacqueline.
We could do this all night. No, you go ahead, Owen, because you'd started.
Well, it's just going back, just with the whole thing. I think that's what it is. I get passionate about the things that I say is because of the life that I've lived here in the nearly 4 years that I've been here. I've been through, a bit of a bad time myself, but I'm still here, and just as I was getting over my first bit of upset, is that the COVID came along, but I managed to combine the both together, and I'm still here, and I'm still smiling, I'm still plodding on, and like I say, I've had the best news ever today. I'm going to be a grandfather, so my daughter is going to have a baby in May of next year, and it makes me even want to stand up on my pedestal more and shout out what I believe is going wrong in the world, because not only do I want a better future for my daughter, but I now want a better future for my future grandchild.
Yes, absolutely.
It does change things. Do you find that from your perspective, Jacqueline, as a grandmother and great grandmother?
I do. I want to leave. I want to leave a good inheritance for my family, and that's part of it. And we've given power away, but I mean, again, I do know that ultimate, power corrupts, but it's also the thing that we all seek, and it's actually natural that we do, because we were meant to have dominion over the earth and various things, but not over each other, and we seem to have swapped that. Well, actually, I hit a chord with Owen.
Granddad Owen, thank you.
I do that, you can still make your own fun. You can still make I think there's a lot in cooking, and we've been doing experiments here now with cooking and all sorts of things, and I think, we'll all come through this. We will come through it. And we'll have learned probably one of the things we have done is give government too much power. And, as you said, Carl, people who've got it, they're going to use it to their own advantage. I mean, it's just what people do.
Yeah.
And I would add to that 2 things that have been, maybe this is not the best thing to say, but I've seen 2 things. One was a video of Bill Gates and Melinda Gates with a load of business people 1 year or 2 years before we ever heard of COVID, at a planning meeting for what they should do if there was ever a pandemic. And it's just like seeing that all come to life, you know.
Mm.
It's really strange.
Yeah.
And so that's
That's
one
the-
thing.
that's-
But this is recorded, you know, it's all on camera and you can see it. And you can, and the other thing is Bill Gates has got vast amounts of money invested in the companies that are trying to make vaccinations. And isn't that strange? However, I think we need to go back to what we can do in our own homes. Taking, you know, the virus is there, it's a problem. We need to take proper precautions. We need to do washing. We need to do more than wash our hands. There's a very cheap substance on the market, and I'm not recommending this to anybody.
Not bleach, is it?
Well, it is bleach in a way because it's.
I thought you were going to say Donald Trump drink bleach treatment.
No, it's agua oxygena, which is because it's oxygen bearing. And so apart from the fresh air, you can use that if you wanted to. I do. And I also have a load of data from a beautiful lady who used to treat people for cancer. And she said, if you washed your body with it every day, you'd never get breast cancer and things like that. So, but that's not really what we were supposed to be doing tonight. We are supposed to be seeing what we can do as a community, and I think we can just swap recipes with Owen. You can teach us how to cook things. I'm going to keep on doing that. I'm going to keep on renewing my mind with very positive things that are happening, because there's always some. I mean, listen to Debbie tonight. What a story in adversity.
Oh yeah.
Going, you know, she's winning.
She's remarkable.
You know, but
Absolutely.
there are those human stories in every family, and instead of being fearful, maybe we could just encourage people to share their winning stories.
Yes, yeah, I love it, Jacqueline.
Absolutely.
This is why you're the grandmother of the community here, because you, and now Owen as well. Well, we're all grandparents actually. The three of us. But you are the uber grandparent and a great grandparent. Me and Owen are newbies at this, but you saying this too shall pass, and I love it because you're a mixture of like this too shall pass from that sort of very wise grandmotherly point of view, but also watch out for those rascals as well. that's the other side of grandmotherly advice, isn't it? That a grandma might say to her teenage daughter, you know, the world is great, but watch out for the rascals as well. It's both bits, isn't it?
And quite often, you know, there's some things going on, and I'm going to prophesy this. In probably less than a week, we're going to. Douglas is a grandchild.
It's a grandparent club here.
Yeah, we're going to hear. There's a lot of stuff's going to be exposed, and you know, this is another thing that things have a way of coming to the light eventually.
Yes.
So I know that there's going to be a lot of exposure.
I totally agree with you there, Jack. When I originally came to Portugal, is because myself and my ex-wife felt things were going wrong and things weren't right. Something was going on, and so obviously it was the right decision moving away from the UK, in particular, seeing what's going on in the UK at the moment. But I'm in the same mind as you. I am obviously hearing the news today that I'm going to be, but I'm staying positive. I am absolutely staying positive, as I have done over the last 2 years when I've had, you know, the good right to be very, very down. But I've always been a positive person and always smiling. And this COVID, any of this politics isn't going to stop me doing what I'm going to do in the future.
You're a beacon, mate. You're a beacon to your grandchild. Fantastic.
And my faith tells me we're overcomers. And God's on the throne, whether He's not going to do things unless He will do them through us. unless we ask him. But you know, there we've got somebody who can make things out of nothing, do wonderful things, and we do. Just that I love that. Keep positive, and discerning, and keep asking questions.
Yeah.
And you know, we can set the example by being accountable and transparent.
Yes.
You know, I think we need to, and happiness and joy can be as catching as fear. And you know, I don't think there's an awful lot to be really, really happy about. And we've got roofs over our heads, we've got food on our tables, and you know, we've got sun. The sun comes up every day. I think we would be really shocked if it didn't.
Yes.
And, you know,
one of the biggest things that I would say is missing from that equation is that missing the smile and the hugs.
Yeah,
that's the thing that's missing from that equation for me.
Yeah. Well, I've been known to break the rules.
Oh, where she goes. There she goes.
We're
glad
going to organise a hugging.
A big thank you. Let's have a look at a few more comments then before we conclude. It's all about monetizing of the most basic human need, which is connection, which completely underlines what you're talking about there, right? Smiling and hugging, that's the connection there, isn't it? And these social media companies, of course, have weaponized really that against us, but it won't last. I really don't think it will last. We you know, if you see how quickly that arc of what social media companies have done and how quickly it's been exposed and what a poor taste people have in their mouth about it, that's a very quick turnaround compared to how long things used to take, I think, in terms of being uncovered. So I'm very positive about that. And I think that those trends will continue in, like you said, Jacqueline, it is an African proverb. What goes on in the dark comes out in the light. And I think that's true. Congrats, Owen. Happy times coming for you. Are you from Manchester, Owen? Says Sean. Yes, he is. Yes, Owen, I agree with the future of our children and their children. They will be our wardens. Yes, they are watching us. So that's worth remembering. From Sean, is that a little Man City player there? I'm wondering. There's definitely some. If it is, there's some human connection going on. It's a shame when the Reds and Blues can't manage that. So I have good news. If you're interested, book tickets for the ferry to Santander today, leaving on the 28th. I thought he was living on the 28 bus. That'd be expensive. Just waiting for my dog's rabies vaccination 21-day cool down. Crikey, that tells you a little bit about vaccinations as well, doesn't it? And I will be heading to Portugal after that. So look forward to maybe having a cold Sagres with you, Ken, at some point. This is all about coming to Portugal, of course. We've had quite a big diversion tonight, but I think it's an important issue and worthy of discussion, certainly in the way we've done it. I don't think anyone's fallen out tonight. We've been able to speak our hearts and minds, which I think is the most important thing, and then see if we can broaden things rather than fall out and polarize things. Congratulations on the move from Helen, Ken. So cool to have Helen calling us, getting up at 4 a.m. so that she can join us from Thailand. I really appreciate that, Helen, and thank you for your words of wisdom to me anyway earlier on. I think they were widely appreciated. Ken, on the 15th of December, says Sean, so we look forward to having a cold Sagres with you as well, Sean. Ken, you're just down the road from me. Nice one, says Ken. Oi, I'm a granddad too, says Douglas. It is the Grandparent Club tonight, isn't it? Yes, to keep positive but also discerning and keep asking the questions, to be accountable and transparent. Community is acceptance and support for individuality. Absolutely. Even if we don't like what people are saying or being at times, we've got to be there for the long term, haven't we, for people? Pete Bleach saying congratulations to you, Owen, as well. The secret's out, Owen, and everyone's congratulating Grandad Owen tonight. My mum's dream to move to Portugal. I'm her carer. She isn't too bad, but she can't do it alone, and I'm happy to support her. God, what a good lad you are, Ken. I've fallen out of love with the UK, so helping her achieve her dream is my dream. Wonderful, Ken. Good man. What a great son you sound. Yes, Jacqueline, the truth will come out. It always does in the end, doesn't it? Wow, Ken, that's lovely to support your mum from Helen too. Less pollution from COVID is one positive. Let's hope we change the way we live for the positive. Agreed, Sean. This old normal, new normal cobblers. I just think it's going to be no normal with any luck from here on in, and we will be living as we wish to, as long as that doesn't hurt or affect anybody else and isn't too dominated by other vested interests. I'm a Manc, says Sean, so that was a thumbs up, I think, there from a fellow Mancunian. Muito happy, Owen, from Ireland as well. His good wishes coming in for your grandfather status from all over the world tonight, Owen. Great show, all thanks, says Eric. Doug, love to have info chat about what the current rules are coming to Portugal. We talked a lot about that on the morning show, Doug. If you can join us on Good Morning Portugal, your best factual. If you tune in to me, I'll be adding all my opinions, and I can't help it. Go to safecommunitiesportugal.com for the factual stuff. They're really good on that. I really appreciate this beautiful community. Thank you, Carl, for hosting and keeping the balance. My absolute pleasure, Helen. And thank you so much again for you joining us. Good man, Ken. Yeah, we're loving that, Ken. About you taking care of your mum like that. Tell us what her name is. Bruce Lee said it the best. The best way is no way. Excellent. And no normal 2021. I tell you what, for all of us who are gathered here together, we can go into a cooperative business and we can get these T-shirts. I understand there's quite a few red baseball caps around that we could rebrand and repurpose at the moment. Maybe.
No, hang on to them. Hang on to them. Hang on to them.
Not yet.
Become collector's items. Not yet.
Wait a minute on the MAGA hats. All right, sorry, I shouldn't have said that.
I'm not. I must just say and state, I am not a Trump supporter. I've been following this stuff for 8 and 9 years, politics and everything else. And if you just see and in particular, we were talking about whether it be social media or the mainstream media. If you look at the United States in particular and how the US media treats their president, you know, it's apparent that something's not quite right there. You know?
Well, yeah.
Do it in red. Do it in red. It should be in blue, Sean.
Oh, calm down. Look, reread it, Owen. Don't do red.
Oh, he doesn't do red.
He's a blues man. Your brothers there.
I've got to get a prop out now. Now that it's in blue.
This is his second prop of the night. It was a bolla de raid to begin with. What on earth is he going to pull out from under the desk now? There we go. It's not that Paisley one. Here we go. So Man City. Oh, it's your scarf. There he is. His Man City scarf.
I don't need it. You know, it's for Sean. Good.
So yeah, fair play. What I was trying to say was we can share the proceeds of the No Normal 2021 campaign. # No Normal, maybe for 2021. Carl, fair and balanced, please. Yeah, okay. Man United fans, do your thing right now. And Biden fans. My mum's name is Jeanette. Man United fans are really quiet at the moment, let's face it. My mum's name is Jeanette. Hello, Jeanette. Good evening to you. She's 70. I'm trying to get her to tune in, but she's watching something on Netflix. How rude is that, Jeanette? We forgive you, and we look forward to your company on another occasion. So lots of love to you, Ken, and your mum, Jeanette, and only wine. Yeah, the only red he does is wine. That's a pretty good catchphrase. And on that note, I'll say goodnight. Last words to you, Owen, and to Jacqueline.
Just stay positive, get out when you can, live life and love everybody.
Absolutely. I love it. Are we allowed to give people homework?
Yes, go on. You are. We're not. Me and Owen aren't, because we haven't earned our grandparents' stripes just yet. But you are well and truly qualified as our grandmother of this community, Jacqueline. Give them homework.
Well, I would love everybody of this community to write down what their ideal dream is of life, and to see if there's any steps that they can actually take towards it at this time, rather than think about anything else. And before we know it, we'll all be living in our ideal dream.
Beautiful. I'll say no more and leave that thought hanging there. Actually, it's not a thought. Do it. do what Donna Jacqueline is telling you to do.
Yeah, I'm a grandmother. I've got to have grandmother's rights.
That's right. She's talking to you. That's right. She's talking to you in your full name there, and you'll be sent to your room if you don't do it when we reconvene next Tuesday night. We'll be checking. We'll be checking next Tuesday night here on the Portugal show on the Tuesday version, which is our Portuguese positive news, overseen by the wonderful Dona Jacqueline there. Thanks, Owen. Thanks, Helen. And thank you, Debbie, for earlier on. And thanks, Wendy, for your words that I used before. Take care, everybody. Bye for now.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.